Hoy, chummers! Just wanted to take a moment and let you know about our Patreon. While we release episodes of Shadowrunnin on Empty every single week, we actually have a backlog of about 4 episodes at any given time, just to give us a little cushion in case we can't record on our schedule for whatever reason. You know, like holidays or bug spirits. If you're interested in getting access to the episodes early, as well as a bunch of other benefits like artwork for the show, news on changes or rollouts, and sneak peeks at other things coming up, 5 new yen a month over on patreon.com/critical_hits gets you full access to all of the bells and whistles. You can even get a shout out for your support at the end of every single episode of Sinless as well. So if you enjoy the podcast and you'd like to support our work as well as get tons of bonus perks, that's the best way to do it. Thanks for your time, and let's get back to the show.
Hey, chummer.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to a special episode of Shadowrunnin on Empty. Don't you adjust those dials. I know you're usually used to hearing the dulcet tones of So Easy bringing us in, but today we're trying something a little bit different. We are going to be giving you a sneak preview of the special episodes we are doing here called Wyrm Talk, which is where we are going to be doing blind answer Q&As to the questions submitted through the Critical Hits Patreon page. So if you want to get your questions in for us for the next episode and to even be able to hear the next episode, make sure that you get into patreon.com/critical hits. And that is what we are going to be getting up to today. As I mentioned, I am Austin, normal participant here for the show and runner in Critical Hits' Sinless. With us, as always, is our fearful leader, Mr. So Easy Mode. How you doing today, So Easy?
I'm doing good. So Easy Mode here, the usual GM for the Sinless episodes. You guys should definitely come and check those out. And normally, I'm the one leading the conversation for our Shadowrunnin on Empty, but like Austin said, we're doing something a little bit different, and we can't be complete without our third participant.
Ta-dang! It is I. It is your man, your myth, your legend, Captain Cozy, aka Tyler, aka the local pervert, and I am here with the list of questions from you lovely, lovely folks. And like Austin stated earlier, if you'd like to post questions for this upcoming series, again, patreon.com/critical hits live. Are you guys ready for some questiones?
I am super excited for this.
I believe I'm ready.
Okay. You never truly know.
This is
All
where
right.
I'm going to be. This is where I'm going to be exposed live on recording as to how much I've actually been paying attention these last 20-some episodes.
Oh, that's me every week, dude.
Ooh, boy.
Every week. Okay, so this first question. Supposedly, the world population over the course of the formative years of the Sixth World took a few hits. What would be the guesstimate of the world population be by 2075 and 2081? I think that's the latest years, they say in little brackets. And what would be the spread between metroplexes and otherwise? So this is talking about the population and then spread of
The total population
metroplexes.
density.
Mhm.
So just for a little bit of context as a leaping off point here, I
Mhm.
did go ahead and check. As of 2022, the current world global population is projected at 8 billion people. So
Yes.
throwing that out there, there's
Mhm.
currently 8 billion in the real world. So taking that into consideration for Sixth World pop, I don't know. So Easy, what are you feeling?
So I'm gonna put on my super big nerd glasses right now.
Let's go.
And well, actually,
Mhm.
Oh,
I
Reddit,
went
is that
back-
you?
Yeah, right. I went back, and since Shadowrun says that the magic and everything starts creeping back into the world around 2012, I took that as the jumping off point for the population of the world, and then factored in the lovely descriptions of the various plagues and some of the disasters that began to hit the sixth world as magic comes back. You have the Vitus Plague, you have some earthquakes, you have some tsunamis, some volcanoes go off. Just
all the fun
bedlam
Chicago bug spirit stuff as well.
Exactly. You lose a lot of the world population in the two Vitus plagues that end up hitting them. So it kind of cuts us back a really big step. I think in 2012, the projected population still around 7, almost to 8 billion. And then you lose like a third and then a third again from the two Vitus plagues.
A few hits. I should emphasize, a few is all caps. A few hits.
That's really good. Yeah, I definitely think it's a few.
Say the least.
To say the least. But by 2075 and 2081, I actually think the population is back to about 7.5 to 8 billion after everything. It takes that long to crawl back, but that's factoring in the plagues, the fights, the bug spirits, everything that happens along the way.
Case, what do you think about the second part of the question, talking about the spread between metroplexes and otherwise?
You'd probably have higher population density in the metroplexes just because you've got a lot of your corporate influences there, and so job opportunities are higher, and plus the metroplexes are actually a large swath of cities kind of crammed together. Like if you take Seattle, for example, as the metroplex, Seattle that we know of today is just considered downtown in the sixth world. So the whole metroplex is actually the combination of the Seattle area, Tacoma, Fort Lewis, Everett, all those suburbs that are around there.
It's like most of Washington and a little bit of Portland, or in Oregon, right? Is like the actual Seattle metroplex. Isn't it like the whole state of Washington and like some of Oregon?
No, it's really not.
Okay.
The whole state of Washington still ends up going to the Salish, but Seattle, the metroplex, if you actually plug it into Google Earth, you can see you can plug in the coordinates that they give you from some of the books and actually draw out what the border of the metroplex would be.
Okay.
It's kind of cool when you do it into Google Earth.
I like to hear the optimism, all these projected things, because we're assuming between 2012 and 2081 we're not going to have like 3 or 4 nukes happen, the Dragon War, like stuff that maybe isn't accounted for.
To take those extra things into consideration, and we almost do have a couple nuclear wars that do happen through that time period, I still think it's optimistic to say that the population is still reflective close to what it would have been in the mid 2020s.
Right.
So probably accurately speculating, probably close to 6 or 7 billion people still on the planet at this time. I mean, it would be a lot higher. It actually should be a lot higher, but we hit the plagues, we get all the disasters, everything.
Wasn't first wave Vitus like 40% of humanity or something like that?
It was like a third.
It's like a 30 to 40s, right? Like we're talking 30 to 40%.
It's a big number. That's what takes out a large chunk of the population.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. I mean, so I will say, I feel like this question is kind of one where, like, if we like passing the ball to So Easy, I think that he's just gonna set this up in a better phrase than me or Tyler could. Like, I just because like I agree with exactly what you said. Like that all checks out to exactly what I would think in this scenario as well. Like, I think about 8 billion is probably 7 to 8 billion to recover back to that state by that time frame is definitely accurate. And I mean, I would say probably like 60 to 70% population density in metroplexes would be my guess.
Mhm.
Because it feels like everything. I mean, granted, we haven't covered that much outside of the US still. That is going to be coming up in some future episodes. So, in terms of what we know about how the US is set up, it seems like it's pretty much if you don't live in a metroplex and you don't live in the UCOS, you're in the indigenous land then at that point that's just been taken back. So like I don't know what the population density of that land is at this point, you know?
I don't know. Right off the top of my head, I don't know. I'd have to look that up.
No. I mean, Cozy, what do you think?
I'm thinking I don't know numbers. Me no math good.
I think I think we can all agree 8 billion. That sounds
Well,
good, right?
I mean, like 8 billion sounds right with
Mhm.
all the logic behind it, but in my head, there's all these asterisks. Like in my head, I'm thinking,
yes.
well, maybe in that time Leviathan decides to take over the land. You know, maybe Lawfare enacts Project Doomsday or something like that. Maybe the nuke from the hit. These are all the things my brain goes to, and I'm like,
Mhm.
we're assuming that there's not just going to be like 3 metroplexes surrounded by fire.
Well, to be fair, the 2075 and 2081 timeline is what is supposed to be the current one that's provided by the 6th edition that just recently came out. So all history that has happened so far, we do have that up to this point.
Okay.
So we know the
that's
Dragon
good to know.
Wars, we know the almost nukes, we know the
Yep.
Vitus plagues.
Yep.
We know the natural disasters. The hard one to factor in, the hardest one, in my opinion, to factor in for population density is all of the toxic incidents like oil spills, nuclear reactor meltdowns, etc. Because I don't know how that's going to affect the land to affect population density. I can't put that together. That's beyond my capabilities as a single person.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah,
We
for
stumped them.
sure.
We win.
We
No.
did it. All right.
Yeah.
Series is over, folks.
Yeah.
This is what it's all been leading towards.
Stumping the GM with straight numbers.
Yeah.
But well,
go
so
on.
in terms of population density, what do you guys think on that end, though?
I think it's higher in the metroplexes.
Do you think it's
as
higher
opposed to
than
surrounded.
70?
Living?
Well, because the question was of that population, how many do we think are living in metroplexes, right, Cozy?
Right.
Yes, and otherwise. So we could denote it by like suburbs, villages, if we want to go break it
Hovels.
down.
I want to know how many
Hovels.
people are living in.
Caves.
What is the hovel density?
Devil
in
rat
20?
lairs.
Yeah, exactly.
In my head, no. Oh, go on.
No, go ahead.
I was just thinking, like, in my head, thinking of cyberpunk, I keep thinking about just like buildings stacked on top of buildings on top of buildings. Like I just see metroplexes going taller instead of wider. So in that way, I just see them being overcrowded.
It's honestly the opposite. They're wider instead of taller.
Yeah,
which is weird. I think it's more like Mega City 1 would be like a metroplex. Just that's a massive metroplex.
Isn't Mega City just a straight vertical building though? Because like that's what I was originally thinking. Is I was like, is it ours? I was
No,
like,
I'm talking about
just like mega cities from. You're talking about Judge Dredd, right?
Yeah, I'm talking about Judge Dredd. I mean, from the latest movie that they put out where they portrayed Mega City 1.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha.
Okay.
That's what I would envision a lot of metroplexes to look like. Yes, you're going to have your tall buildings, but you're still going to have some spread out area.
Yeah.
All right. That seems like a solid enough segue. Speaking of cyberpunk, our next question. Since cyberpunk as a genre usually relies on the idea of disposable humanity, for example, the Barons, how does that work in a world where meta-humanity seems to constantly be dying by the droves? There's no way suddenly 3, 4, or 5 child households are the norm, and they say, as an aside, outside of orc homes.
Those orcs, man, they can't be stopped.
I mean, in the sixth world, yeah, they are a population that is definitely on the rise.
in the sixth world, instead of the phrase "fuck like rabbits," do they say "fuck like orcs"?
Well, to give it more perspective, when orcs have children, they naturally don't just have one child; they give birth to a litter of children.
They have an orc litter.
Yes.
Damn.
So, I mean, take that as you will, and that's probably why they
Mother's
singled out
Days.
orcs.
Orcs Mother's Days are like you give them a house or something, man. Yeesh.
I would think that you would see a little bit of return to the nuclear family, where you at least have two children households.
I would imagine that we would start to see more stuff like the population density in regards to like the tiers, where rather than having to necessarily find like integration into the metroplexes and like human society, meta-humanity just kind of is doing its own thing. Because we've got the tiers with the elves, and then I know that like the dwarves and the orcs and like most of the other trolls seem, or not, I meant most of the other races seem like they've all kind of shifted to points where they all kind of have their own societies, but then you also just have the standardized integration as well, in the same way that it would be like, you know, the difference between people that live in North America and South America, where it's just kind of they have their own culture and societal standard and living situations and what have you, that they've all just kind of adapted outside of necessarily having to be part of the overall norm.
So in this scenario, is it like meta humans live in different neighborhoods than humans?
Well, I think that it's that if the meta humans are living in like metroplexes, that everything just kind of seems like it's normally integrated, and there isn't that type of like segregation of like having, you know, this is the elf neighborhood, like
unless you're like the tiers.
That doesn't seem like it's the case, but it seems like they have established their own societies of like with the tiers and the elves, where they all just also kind of hang out on their own and do their own thing.
Yeah, I will say that from what we've talked about with like different metahuman tragedies that have occurred over the many years in Shadowrun, there are moments where the metahumans either fight back physically or they get it done through like legislation and stuff like that. So I feel like at the point we're at, Cyberpunk or like Shadowrun isn't necessarily a dystopian, but it is just more, it's violent integration, I guess. Like over time, you know, it's normalized to what you're saying. And dying by the droves, it's very fair, but that like Shadowrun is often doing, they're reflecting like real world history.
Yes. So I would see it the same way that it is now. Like, yeah, humanity and meta-humanity may have some mass, you know, loss of life during this time period, but I mean, if you look at our current history now, we do, and we're still somehow getting by. So, in the words of the great Dr. Malcolm, life finds a way.
That is incredible. Okay. Is that all we had for this one?
Yeah,
I think that's all I've really got for that one.
Okay.
Yeah, and once, you know, the elves get tired of human society and all their bullshit, they're like, fuck it, we're just taking Ireland. And then they do, and you're like, fair enough, man. I don't blame you. I guess that makes sense.
Enough. Yeah. All right. Of the world population, what's the actual number of Shadowrunners? The game makes it feel like basically anyone around the mid to low end of society and with any amount of chutzpah ends up as a Shadowrunner. It's like every other bar hosts a runner team.
Well, that's not fair, honestly. And I think that is something that's probably taken out of context by other people that run Shadowrun.
I'm pretty sure
my experiences and in my own opinion, not every bar caters to a Shadowrun clientele. There's not like a secret bar that Shadowrunners go to hang out. You have to put that into context. Like, how dumb would that be You go to hang out at a bar with other Shadowrunners. You're just asking for trouble or to get geeked or for somebody to run their mouth to think that they're better than somebody else. And then you've got a fight breaking out. I just don't see it. I'm sorry.
Well, it's
Maybe
one of
I'm
those.
too black trench coat, but
No, it's one of those things where like I think that as a staple of the TTRPG game settings, it's
Mhm.
kind of just become the norm of at the beginning of our adventure, our weary travelers all gathered at the local inn and are then given their quest. And like
That's
I
fair, but
I
that comes
I
from fantasy, and it just
no
doesn't
no
translate
I
over
get
very
you, but
well.
let me get through.
Go no, go ahead, go ahead.
So I think that that's where it's coming from, but I agree that I don't think that that is something that translates properly into every different type of tabletop RPG genre. I think that that's something that can be very useful as a framing device for a fantasy setting, because that is something where if it's not a bar, you would probably have like an adventuring hall or a guild, uh some type of guild building where all of these people would be, registered adventurers, and that usually plays more into that kind of societal system and framework. But in a setting like Shadowrun, where Shadowrunners are supposed to be nameless, faceless entities hired by mega corporations who do not want people to have this attachment to them, that they are the ones who hired these people to do it, having a setting like a Shadowrunners bar doesn't make sense because of that exact reason. Or if you had something like that, it would make more sense if it was like set in the Matrix where nobody's actually meeting at a physical location. They can mask their IPs and hide where they're connecting in from in order to be able to meet people that way. But like the conceit of, yeah, and then my street Sam walked into the rusty USB port and sat down to wait to meet with his client like always, like that doesn't make sense. It would be the same thing if you tried to translate it into like a modern set superhero system, and you're like, and then all of our superheroes met at the superhero bar in order to go fight crime that day. Like it's not a trope that sets itself to every system and mechanic in that way. And it is something that I've enjoyed of how we've handled it with Sinless, where for the most part, like we've gone to meet people at bars, but it's always different locations and it's always different people. Like it's
Mhm.
never been this one consistent place that we go to that we get these jobs. Usually it's somebody contacts us and then we go meet them in an abandoned warehouse and get information, which is how you would imagine clandestine espionage tactics would be done. So like, yeah, that is a much more appropriate setting and feel for that, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. As to the actual numbers of Shadowrunners, you have to also think that just because you're mid to low end of society, most of the low end society members aren't going to turn to a life of Shadowrun because they don't have the connections, they don't have the money for the wear, they can't get the hardware. Most of them are actually going to roll into gangs,
Mm.
and you see a large tick up in the amount of gangs in the sixth world.
There
It,
are
it,
a lot of organizations for sure.
it
Yes.
feels like becoming a Shadowrunner is not the same as just deciding that you wanted to be an adventurer in like a fantasy setting where you're like, and then I picked up a sword and then I went outside and I've been on
Yeah.
my adventure ever since. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't really work that same way because there's so much more involved with it. Like I just imagine like a dude like imagine like a kick-ass scenario where a guy's just like, yeah, I'm gonna not have any augmentations, not have any type of like good weaponry, but I'm gonna be the Shadowrunner, and like immediately dies in his first mission, just like immediately obliterated.
Yeah, that is a good example. I would say Shadowrunners probably only make up maybe like, oh man, 2% of a population in a metroplex. That's being generous, I think. I know it probably seems like there would be more, but I don't think so.
I have a bit of a different perspective on this because, like you guys were saying, when it comes to Shadowrunners being kind of out of the norm,
Hmm.
that's a way that we don't know who's actually Shadowrunners and who aren't. And on
Hmm.
top of that, because of the way the stories are usually told, it's perspective bias. Of course, like in Harry Potter, you see a lot of wizards. You don't assume the entire world is wizards. Or
Hmm.
in Naruto, you don't see everybody in the assume they're all ninjas, even though they probably are. That's a bad example. But my point is like the story we're telling is one about Shadowrunners, and in order for Shadowrunners to operate, they have to know other Shadowrunners. Like Easy Mode was saying with the connections part.
Hmm.
So I will say that I think there definitely is a Shadowrun bar, but it's probably so like elite and secretive that the moment they even detect that you're about to tell someone something, your head explodes or something like that. You know, like
Well, but
I wouldn't be surprised.
but also in the context of Sinless, I mean, up until this last arc that we just finished,
Hmm.
is this the first time that we've actually had dealings with another runner? With was that the big ogre dude with the tax shield that went with us?
Oh yeah, that has been one
Like
of your other
we
interactions.
we've never dealt with other runners. We've never
No.
had any other
Mm-mm.
interactions with any
We've
other runners within the context of our story. We've never
Yeah.
had to go against an opposite team. We've never dealt with them directly in terms of like getting jobs or resources from them. So like we don't I assume that within the setting and the world, that's kind of how it is, where all of the runner groups are their own independent entities who stay out of each other's way for the most part, unless you get contracted to try to hunt down another runner at that point. But
Hmm.
that doesn't seem to be the norm. That seems to be the outlier.
Yes, I would agree.
Okay.
I would also think like because the stories are mainly told from the perspective of Shadowrunners, I'm sure there are stories out there that people have written or will write that are about just normal people, like good old office manager Ronald, you know, just doing paperwork and stuff like that. And then they're just like annoyed by all the Shadowrunner logistics they have to run. There's stuff like that, you know, it all depends, but it depends on if you want to do offices and bosses as your like story based
Hmm.
in Shadowrun, you know?
No, that's a good perspective to have too. It is 100% based off the story.
Yeah. Um, all right. Ooh, okay. Ooh, oh, easy. I'm interested to see what you think of this.
Oh, okay, okay.
How do you all feel about the infamous Shadowrun quote unquote crunch? Would you ever consider playing the Shadowrun setting with a different rule set? Or do you play this rule set because it allows you to play the way you want? And as an aside, I'm interested to see if there's a difference between the veteran and the newbie takes. Well, you're about to get one.
Should we have Easy go last for this one then?
I feel like that's just appropriate.
Okay.
'Cause I'm gonna be biased if I follow you.
Fair enough. You guys take it away.
Do
So,
you want to go first, Tyler, or do you want me to go first?
uh, I want to think about it a bit. So yeah, you can
Okay.
go.
I I enjoy the system, and that's I when they say the crunch, I assume that that's what they're talking about is like the systems and
Yeah.
mechanics to
Hmm.
Shadowrun, right?
Right. Right. It's
So
crunchy.
I it is crunchy. I will give you that. Like I enjoy the nuances of the Shadowrun system because I think that it allows you to do things more freely than I've personally experienced in other tabletop games that I've played. Like, for example, if you're playing in a D&D setting and you decide that you want to try to climb up a mountain and they're like, "Okay, give me an athletics roll." And then you roll athletics and then you go, "All right, fantastic. You passed it. You climb up the mountain. There you go. You're good to go." Like that I never expect that to just be the case when it comes to doing anything in Shadowrun, and I feel like it makes it to where I have to put a lot more thought into my actions and a lot more thought into how I want to approach something rather than from just the most obvious straightforward route usually. because I feel like because of the nuances of the mechanics for this game, I feel like it really rewards you more for not just going with the norm and going for the straightforward response to something that's happening. I feel like it allows you to get a lot weirder with things, in a good way. I feel like it makes you look at something and go, but what if I had to take this from a different perspective? And what if I was able to do this hyper specific thing to try to solve this problem instead? And a lot of the times there is a mechanical answer to being able to do that, and a way to do it that lets you get away with a lot more crazy shit than I think a lot of other systems do. That said, as a first time player, I do think that Shadowrun can be very, very intimidating. One of my friends that I've been talking to about our Shadowrun campaign, the way that he phrased it to me when I first told him that I was playing Shadowrun is that it is his favorite system to play in with his least favorite mechanic to play with. And I can totally understand that. I think that a lot of that crunchiness and a lot of that weightiness is also going to come into play with having somebody to be able to guide you through it. And we are lucky to have So Easy as our GM, because all things considered, he has made it an incredibly easy onboarding and learning experience for something that could otherwise be very overwhelming. So I do think that because of that crunchiness and weightiness behind it, that I think the DM probably has a lot more responsibility in this game to work with players and make sure that everybody knows what they're doing and how to do it than I think you would end up running into with a lot of other tabletop RPGs. I don't think it is as welcoming as like a D&D 5e is, but I don't think that it's the most terrifying, intimidating, scary thing that I've ever played or faced in my life, you know? It was very much like, this feels like a lot to take in, but then once you kind of get the hang of it and go through the first couple of runs and realize that you've been cheating on initiative the whole time and have to realize how to do that correctly,
Huh. Weird,
it,
weird,
it
weird example.
it does become a lot more welcoming, and it does become a lot more fun to then be able to play within the playground of these mechanics.
Yeah, I agree on like a ton of stuff you said. Although I will, of course, say Easy Mode is an incredible GM, great guy, just flies with story stuff that's crazy. That's also keeping in mind that before our, to peek behind the curtain, people, before our campaign started, there were certain classes or backgrounds that were not available to us players because it either was, and you can elaborate on this easy, it was either too complicated or it broke the game. Like from my experience, if I ever have talked to anybody who plays Shadowrun, they hate deckers or something to that equivalent, because when you have a different setting within a setting, like the internet or the, you know, the web, uh then it leads to split off campaigns that just kind of mess with the pace. That being said, the way that we have our campaign running is pretty freeform, and I think part of that is because one of my favorite ways I've heard people refer to TTRPGs is it's improv with consequences. And I've played 5e and I love it. I've played other games that are like you're an elevated superhuman or something of that sort. You know, you're akin to a god and then you can't die and something, etc. Plot armor. That being said, I have been like, man, magic's kind of cool, and then I suddenly see someone rolling for drain, and it's like, oh, this could be bad if you like overdo it, or you know, you think you're a badass melee fighter, and then suddenly you take a serious wound, and you are just messed up. And if you try and just push through that, you're gonna face the consequences. Um, now I'm not too familiar with modern day Shadowrun, so I don't know how forgiving it is, but part of my enjoyment of this setting has been just the challenge of I feel like a badass, but I still have to kind of think about it and work for it. Um, and that's doing part with our GM. But I'm going to be completely honest, guys. This is not going to come as a surprise to anyone who actually watches me play. I don't know the rules that well. I kind of like sort of remember through context, but I'm not a math guy. And then Easy pulls out like a chart that is explaining damage thresholds, and my brain just goes bzzz. And that's not out of boredom, that's because my brain is smooth. That being said, to keep it short, it's harder to play, but the reward feels a lot more fulfilling.
Well, I would just like to take this time to really thank you guys. I really appreciate that. I do try and make it as welcoming as I can because I do know how difficult and how daunting the crunch can actually be of this game. So, from my perspective, since I've been playing this game for a long time, and it was actually introduced to me through one of my friends back when I was in college, just starting out. And it seemed daunting to me, and I was coming from like a D&D background, and so I had to kind of relearn how to role play a little bit because of the different rule setting that I was having to learn and understand. So yes, Shadowrun is very crunchy. It doesn't matter what system you or what version you go into, you're going to encounter crunch. I actually like it. I really do. I love having a rule that I can reference for someone to do something. Like, for example, Troll wants to rip off a car door and use it as a shield. Awesome. I have a table for that. Not every GM does. And that is something that you have to take into account if you're going to run Shadowrun at all. Find the tables that you're going to be referencing the most and make your own screen so you can quick reference when you need to, because that will cut you down on time. It will give your players more time to do stuff that they want and less time of you guys having to flip through books to find things. That is one of the lifesaver tips that I can give you as an experienced GM and running a game with crunchy rules. If you're just starting out in your GMing experience, I would hold off on trying to get people together to play Shadowrun. I would try and familiarize yourself with it. If you can at all, find a group that's already playing, play in a couple sessions. It'll be the fastest way for you to learn the rules, especially if you have an experienced GM to be able to guide you through it.
I have a follow-up question.
Yeah.
So and I don't know how much you've played of the other systems, but
Mm-hmm.
say that there are some intrepid listeners who want to push through the crunch and play anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You have a rule set that you would recommend as a first-time Shadowrun player and GM?
So for Shadowrun, honestly, right now, I would look into starting at either 5th edition or 6th edition. And that's not necessarily because of the rules that are there, because both are crunchy. 6th edition is supposed to be a little lighter, but with all the supplement books that they've put out recently, I think it's going to end up being just as crunchy as the other versions, especially since they needed to retcon so many rules in the original core book that they put out because it wasn't finished. That's a whole different can of worms. But yeah, I would say 5th or 6th just because of the availability of books. You're going to be able to find stuff. You're going to be able to find PDFs. You're going to be able to find current message boards with people talking about whatever issue you may run into in the game.
Excellent. I hope that does answer that question. And I am gaining a newfound appreciation of it just from us talking about what we like about it.
Yeah, you'll probably find that. I mean, I could tell you guys in 3rd edition, the one that we're playing in is probably one of the more crunchier rule sets just because there is technically a rule for everything. I could definitely find it in the rule book if you give me enough time to look.
Well, I think that getting into Shadowrun as well, one of the things that I feel like people don't talk about a lot of in regards to playing the game is it's the first TTRPG that I've played where you really have to get into the role play aspect of it. Like when you said that when you got into it, you felt like you had to relearn how to play like a role playing game.
Mhm.
That's how I felt as well when we started doing Shadowrun, because I've never played a game before, a a tabletop game where the actual shadow running, adventuring, actioning is like 30% of what you do. Like a lot of Shadowrun is what does your character do when you're not on runs, and that's something that I feel like D&D, you don't really have that downtime. Like in a D&D campaign, it's like you're almost always constantly from quest to quest to quest to quest to finish the main story arc. And don't get me wrong, you still have character story, you'll still have side quests that you do to flesh out that character, but like if you would have told me at the beginning of Sinless that my character's arc was that I was going to start a legitimate business as a seamstress, I would have called you a liar. And yet here we are, like 40 some episodes in, and it is like one of my favorite tabletop experiences I've ever had is the paperwork filing to start a business. Like it's insane. Like and I feel like that's something that never really gets brought up enough, but one of the
Awesome.
most important things I think with Shadowrun is really building that immersion into the world and how your character fits into it and how they interact with it and what they do when you're not shadow running, because that's not going to be the game all the time. At least in my experience so far with this campaign.
Oh yeah.
It's like for every 8 episodes of Sinless that we do, we'll do one run, and everything else is just, well, what are you guys doing today? And it's like, well, shit, I didn't think this far. Like, waking up, that's step 1. We're gonna get out of bed. We'll see where we go from there.
In my opinion too, that's the other fun thing about this setting is that it's not always just about, oh, well, let's go do this mission and then hop to this mission and hop to this mission and combat. Your character is a living, breathing thing in this world. And I feel like there are consequences to the actions, even in your everyday life, that can affect things or throw you for a loop. And that's why I do a more in-depth character building for this type of game.
Never before have I
carried
felt
over.
Never before have I felt like the term "your consequences have actions" have been more applicable to any game I've played in my life than with Shadowrun.
Yo, definitely.
That should be the tagline of Shadowrun. Shadowrun: your consequences have actions. Like,
oh yeah, that is.
Gosh,
that's pretty true. But the other great thing about this whole setting and the way that you develop your characters is, and this might just be for my own personal style of running the game. I love to build the story off of everyone's backstories. I don't like to just have an overarching story plot line that I'm plopping these random individuals on and hoping that they all get along and go through it. I feel like you get more out of the story if you can pull from what a player has put down on paper to make it a little more personal to them.
Absolutely. And you've proven that with Zero's arc throughout this whole thing. That
Well, I try.
gave you. I don't know how many of the listeners know this, but before our campaign started, I gave Easy a fairly fleshed out backstory, I'd say. And I was like, is this too much? And he's like, nah, it's great. And then he proceeded to twist everything I knew about it. And it's been even better than I ever imagined.
40 episodes later, here we are.
Yeah. And on top of that, like that creativity that you guys are talking about, one of the things that I have trouble with as someone who loves 5e is that it feels very flowcharty, where like if you want to play this thing, pick this race, pick this class, pick this spell, and you're done. And you're like, all right, now I know the most optimal build. With Shadowrun, in my experience so far, the flexibility of not exactly having a traditional class structure and just going off of the skills you've improved over time feels a lot more freeing, and it actually forces you to think about what you're doing with your character. For instance, when we were making our characters, originally I was going to play a solely melee based dude, same character, but it was going to be with mainly a sword. And after talking with some of the other players, I realized that we didn't really have anyone who did anything from afar. And that was where I pivoted to suddenly have my character be a sniper. And at first I was like, oh man, I'm not going to like this. I really love the melee stuff. And then my very first role in that game as an attack is one of my most memorable RPG moments of my entire life. And it really showed me like, okay, the possibilities really are endless. Sinless, some might say.
100% agree. It's one of the other reasons I love Shadowrun so much is that it doesn't nail you down into a class structure. So you can literally make whatever you want and try and make it work.
Except magic.
I mean, magic is its own little beast, but still.
Keeping that in mind for down the road.
Yeah, eventually. You got to try everything once, right?
I don't know if you listened to the last episode, Tyler, but I already have my next character planned out, and I am very excited for them.
Oh,
I definitely have one as well.
When you get to the section of our last Shadowrunnin on Empty episode where we're talking about the Beatles, who boy.
Oh, there's him, and then there's also the drug dealer.
Oh,
okay.
yes.
Let's not give away too much. Like leave him wanting for more. Speaking of more, we have more questions if we're ready to proceed. All right. There were some awesome books about parazoology and parageology released in, I believe, 4E. Could you do an episode with So Easy Mode talking you all through each of the awesome and sometimes horrifying elements often overlooked in the concrete hellscape Shadowrun is often plated?
Yeah, absolutely. We will be doing that. I mean, parageology, we'll probably get into when we start globe hopping a little bit more. We touched a little bit on parazoology where we did that critters episode. So if you want to hear some of the critters that we talked about, you can always go check that one out. There are many more, and there are even 2 separate books that I have from the 3rd edition. That is Paranormal Critters of North America, and then there's also Paranormal Critters of Europe.
For anybody interested in that as well, that was episode 10 of Shadowrunnin on Empty, where we did Paranormal Critters, and you get to learn about the dietary habits of unicorns and how canon they are.
And what each of the university's mascots would be.
Yes.
That's a very important conversation.
It's super important, you guys.
Yeah. No Nova Possum, right?
But
or bandits. Hell yeah, bandits.
To piggyback as well off of what So Easy was saying, I do feel like that's something that we will probably dip into once we start going more into the specifics of the different countries and anything that they have in terms of unique topography, geography, animals unique to that area, all that fun stuff. So once we start diving more into that specific type of contents, I think that we'll get more of that flushed out as well.
To also go off of some of the parageology, we did touch on some of those magical compounds that can be made in the drugs episode that just recently released.
That is very true. And in the magic episode, we also talked about like the different magic spots and stuff as well. So it's kind of just like splashed all around is the answer to this question. There is some of it out there, but as more things become specific to the further topics that we talk about, we'll make sure that those get brought up and included as well.
To overly simplify the answer for this, yes, we could do an episode. We've done a couple, and you're just gonna have to tune in to see if we do more. Also, concrete hellscape is one of my favorite descriptors now, and I will use it wherever I can. That is an awesome question.
That's fair.
Sinless question. After not even watching 20 episodes, currently watching on the plane, Shadowrun is mostly set in Seattle or Germany, Berlin mostly. Will Sinless ever explore the wider Shadowrun universe?
Yes, season 2 is exclusively set in Australia. Next question.
Oh my god.
I was gonna go the other way. I was like, we will always be in Seattle forever.
Not true. Actually, I don't want to spoil too much, but catch the last few episodes of the current Sinless show, and you'll find out that they don't stay in Seattle the whole time.
What's this stuff about it being mostly set? Well, Seattle makes sense, but like set in Berlin.
I'm assuming it's your backstory stuff is what they're referencing.
Oh
Is
no,
it?
they're saying Shadowrun in general.
Oh, Shadowrun in general. Oh, I
Yes,
see.
Shadowrun in general mostly does happen in Seattle or in Berlin.
Also,
Berlin
if-
Metroplex is also a large hotspot.
apologies to the people who might live there because I don't know, but my character is from Belarus. Not technically Russia, I think. I don't know. I just looked up a name and the origin of it. My backstory. To answer the question, yes, we are going to. I mean, technically, like doing the stuff with the magic and that, like the spirit stuff, that is, I would say, outside of Seattle. But
I mean, you're in the meta planes, which I don't know, that
the same
kind of
place.
counts. But to be more specific to this question, yes, we will be leaving the Seattle area. We will be exploring other places. It does happen here towards the end of our first season, and then our second season, you'll probably see it happen more often with what's going to be involved there, and I'm not giving away too much.
All right, yeah, we'll move on before you spill the beans.
Also, real quick, Belarus is its own country. It is a neighbor of Russia, but it is not part of Russia. It is bordered by
cool.
Russia.
Cool.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, because I remember when I did research,
It's
it's
part of that. It's part of that whole. It's like Belarus, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Ukraine area. You know that whole
right
mid
The
Europe.
lovely melting pot area.
Yeah, that's where it is. So it is its own country.
Awesome. Well, there you go. I'm. It's not getting actually. It's getting remember this thing that I researched and then forgot. All right. Okay. Could someone explain how or why and how soy has become the most prevalent product in the sixth world?
Yes. The simple short answer is it's the most cost effective.
Why?
Well, you can grow it with the way that they've advanced agriculture. You can grow it just about anywhere. So it becomes a very prevalent crop that's cheap and easy to grow in mass quantities.
It's not because like beef got destroyed with a
I mean, yes, there's some loss of some food sources because of the pollution of the world and some of the disasters that happen. Like we definitely lose a portion of the fishing industry is lost in the sixth
fair.
world.
Yeah.
You lose some fertile land because of the disasters. Volcanoes erupting in North America is not helpful. What else? The God, all the toxic spills that happen over in Europe are also not helpful.
So it's everywhere and it's cheap.
It's because it's everywhere, and then they're able to produce it in mass quantities in almost any climate. So it becomes just the de facto crop to replace a lot of things. Just because, like I said, it's just the most cost-effective thing that they could grow in mass quantities to replace. So sadly, soy becomes a very popular.
Hey man, Taco Temple
ingredient.
found magic with it. Okay.
I guess.
All right. Everyone talks about private security and corporate controlled everything. But what are the remnants of governments doing with their time?
Well, it depends on which governments, because you have the United States, which splits into the UCOS and the COS government, and they kind of, they're basically just doing what was happening in America before the split. Mexico's government disappears and becomes Aztlan due to a lot of shady dealings that take place. Germany just kind of implodes and there's no government left, really. I think Britain's government still kind of around. The tier nations come up. So it's not just corporate extraterritoriality where they have their own fiefdoms. It's just that is a very prevalent part of the game. Governments are still around. They're basically just trying to hold on to what they have.
It's just a tradition at this point.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch of corruption that was
Yeah.
rampant in the United States before the split into the UCOS and the COS. And now afterwards, the remnants of those governments are just kind of trying to hold their countries together.
I like to imagine that at this point, like the leader of the COS is just like one of those little drinky birds on a desk. And they're like
from that Simpsons episode, yes, no,
yeah, exactly.
yes, no.
Yeah,
Who
exactly.
told you about Lord Percival?
Yeah, they just put like a seal stamp on his face, so they just put down papers whenever they need it approved, and it just stamps the paperwork, and you push it
Imagine
through.
putting a stamp in the hand of a wacky wavy inflatable arm flailing tube man.
Well, that would just be a nightmare to try to like. I would imagine that it would be easier at that point to just put a pen in the hand and then just like
Stamps
hold
all
a
over
piece
the
of
wall.
paper. Just hold a piece of paper up to the arm area.
And then they assassinate themselves by stabbing themselves with this pen.
Jeez.
It's all a mess. It's all a mess.
You know
okay.
what? Let's go with one of my favorite routes from Rocco's Modern Life, where they just use the Magic 8 meatball.
Yeah, I think that would be a good way to do it. Honestly, I mean, it kind of feels like that's a lot of what we've got going on anyway right now. Anyway, so
I honestly would believe it.
Yeah.
All right. We somewhat answer this question, but it's up to you how much you want to go into detail about the CZ. How long until the Sinless gang travels to Europe?
It's happening very soon. If you've kept up with the current episodes
which is episode,
and you're watching regularly, we are on episode. Oh boy,
it's 42. Where are we at?
42 or 43?
44 was the last one that came out. 45 was the most recent one this last Sunday.
God.
Yes. Woo! Getting up there.
What a ride, man.
These last few episodes, we'll probably see you going to Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And keep in mind that like this campaign is mainly set in Seattle, going to Europe as like kind of an end game scenario. But in the future, I'm sure we'll explore different like countries.
Yeah, it's definitely an end game scenario for your character arc story.
Right.
But yes, in the future, like when we get to season 2, there'll be some more globetrotting.
Right on. The gang goes on a world tour. Why did you guys settle on playing Sinless in the time period that it's set in rather than the latest?
Well, the latest, it involves 6th edition, and I had not taken the time to super dive into all the 6th edition rules, so I can't accurately be able to give the support at the level that I do right now.
Could you apply that setting with our current rule set?
I probably could. We could use the same rules and we could just up the timeline. But I like this particular timeline that we started because there's so much on the way that happens. Like, you're at the tail end of the big plot point of 2nd edition, which was the assassination of Dunkelzahn. And then the major points that happen in 3rd edition generally have to revolve around the arcology. And then into 4th edition, we see Wireless Matrix come up, and that again is involved with the arcology. But there's also some other fun stuff that happens, and we'll get to talk about this in another Shadowrunnin on Empty episode. But the Year of the Comet happens, and you guys are not fast approaching, but
terminal velocity.
You're approaching that timeline because you're in 2060, and the Year of the Comet is 2061. So the very next year is when that happens.
Already like it's 2061. All right.
From everything that we've covered so far in the history of the Shadowrun stuff, it just kind of seems like the 2060s is the most interesting era. It seems like there's the most like overarching narrative stuff going on for you to be able to use as a backdrop for your own campaign settings. And all of it is like really cool shit that I feel like a lot of the more modernistic modernistic time frame doesn't have the same equivalency to.
I can speak as to why to that too.
What would that be?
The Shadowrun franchise changes hands. The fourth edition is the last edition that it was under its original parent company of FASFA. FASFA Corporation writes, I think, second, third, and the start of fourth edition, right? When it switches hands over to Catalyst Games for fifth and sixth edition, you lost a massive quality in writing staff because of the business archetype that Catalyst Games likes to put forward. And I will 100% go on a trash rant about Catalyst Games if you guys let me. But that is why you see a giant drop in narrative capability switching from one company to the other.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Right.
It's super disappointing, but that is what happened.
I mean, we're enjoying it for what it is right now.
Yeah.
Austin, you were going to say something?
Oh no, it makes sense. That's, I mean, it's a too many cooks issue, and also like when you have people that take over and they're just like, yeah, I don't know, we'll just make sci-fi stories or cyberpunk stories, fuck it, whatever. Like that could just be a detriment sometimes. But I think that all of the stuff that we've covered from the time frame, all of the stuff that we've gone over, there's so much cool shit that happens in the 2060s that even if we were to adapt to the gameplay mechanics of 6th edition and whatever differences that would bring, I still think that playing within the 2060 time frame is like the coolest era from everything that we've talked about so far.
I am one to agree. All right. That leads us to our less specific questions, but nonetheless very important ones. We might be covering a bit of stuff we've said earlier, but hey, you know what? No problem in revisiting good old times. All right. What do you like about Shadowrun versus other TTRPGs? I feel like we kind of answered this when we were talking about the crunch.
Yeah, a little bit.
No other TTRPG lets me be a street samurai with Wolverine claws, so
Who runs a business?
Who is a seamstress and runs a legitimate business. So
Checkmate.
That's pretty much it right there. No, I think that having a modern setting with fantasy troping to it is something that is unique within the Shadowrun setting, and the way that it incorporates both fantasy and sci-fi aspects make it incredibly interesting. I would have to imagine from a storytelling perspective of what you can do with that, but just from a player perspective, because it's one of those things where like we'll go to play an episode of Sinless and we'll have to for instance, the last 2 episodes that we had, the second to last episode that you guys did was like an entire magic cult ritual, like crazy deep dive into the magic and arcana systems of Shadowrun, and then literally the last episode, the entire episode takes place in the Matrix. So it's like you have that dichotomy between fantasy and sci-fi, and the way that it all blends together is so good and so seamless that I don't think I've ever seen another tabletop system that's been able to really crunch that together and make it work in the way that Shadowrun does.
That's fair. That is a very fair take.
Yeah, well said.
If you like how deep you're able to get your character lore in this setting, I'll have to take you guys through one of my 40K settings one time.
Okay.
where you guys play agents of the Inquisition.
Okay.
Yeah, I have many a story that is pretty awesome that works in that world.
Insert the meme of the cat heavy breathing.
I don't know if you know this or not, so easy, but one of the main things that gets Daddy Cozy's nipples hard is the concept of playing religious zealotry. So
death to the heretic, deny the witch.
Yeah, so being able to
Oh,
play
wow.
an Inquisitor within a Warhammer setting, I think that might be a very strong possibility.
Oh boy, that may be something that we have to visit at some point.
Maybe for the Patreon. Who
Oh, I
knows?
don't know. Oh.
Patreon.com/criticalhitslive. Patreon.com/criticalhitslive. Do it. Thank you. Okay. All right. Moving on before
Moving
I
on.
bing bang wa ta ta. All right. Now this one we can take time if we need to think about it, guys.
Okay.
Favorite Shadowrun moment.
Oh wow.
And I would imagine easy. You have a couple that aren't even from this campaign.
I actually have two that are from when I was playing. I have two that are from when I was playing, and they were both in the same campaign. Of course, this campaign went for like 3.5 years.
Yeah.
So there's some memories, but there's definitely two that stand out. So I have
one that
my
stands
two
out above the rest.
Yeah, one of them is kind of funny, and the other one was just like spine tingling and great.
Interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
we'll check everyone in real quick. Austin, you got one in mind?
Just from what we've gone through so far, honestly, I think that in terms of Sinless, I think one of the things that I had the most fun with and just really enjoyed how it all came together is probably the death race. I was a really big fan of the death race. It was something that I remember mentioning to So Easy as kind of like a passive thought when he first brought up like the concept of the Go Gang, and
Uh-huh.
then like all of the fallout that we've had since then of beating them and then turning them into the Valkyries and then having them as our own like gang group that we're incorporating as part of this business that I'm now building out as well to have like just the like again like the openness of like where we've gone from where we started with the simple concept of this gang needs to be taken care of, and that was the only direction that we were given to kind of start from.
Uh-huh.
It is one of my favorite tabletop experiences that I've had, not just in the Shadowrun setting, but in general. It just I it's been so fucking fun. And yeah, that whole death race episode and like how we incorporated everybody into it and getting the battle wagon like ready to go and making sure that everybody had a role to do as well, like that incorporation I think is one of the things that I enjoy the most about our group, and just us playing through this campaign in general is I like that it feels like everybody is doing something, and it never feels like we have people or players that are sitting on the back burner. Like
Mhm.
even in the last two episodes where we didn't have the full group, it was all in the service of the greater narrative that
Mhm.
all of this is being done and told. So even though I'm not there for the episode, I'm still watching it. I still feel like it's influencing and impacting what I will do and like, stuff for my character going forward as well.
Mhm.
So that's been mine though. For me, it's definitely the death race. I love the death race.
Awesome.
So I guess I have a problem with remembering things, to be honest, but I will say that, and I don't want to go into the spoilers for either of these. So if we want to do two, that's fine,
Mhm.
maybe, because I'm thinking about something. Anyway, one of my favorite RPG moments from Shadowrun, and just one of my favorite RPG moments, was a conversation Zero had with Flounder when we last saw him. That was very, how do I say this? It was very interesting to RP that because there was a certain point where my character stopped and I was just kind of talking,
Uh-huh.
and it felt like a weird thing of like following your own advice. And at the end of it, it felt like a genuine connection
Yeah.
between Flounder and Zero that I have not experienced in any game. So that's one of my favorites. My second favorite, and I would actually kind of put this on top of that,
Oh.
is I don't want to go into spoilers again, but we
Uh-huh.
had a recent episode with a recent oil derrick thing that may or may not have ended in a way that no one was expecting, including myself. Tune in, check it out. It's a cool moment. The curtain rises. Anyway,
that was a fun
yes,
moment.
it was incredible. All right, easy.
My favorite Shadowrun moment in a game where I was playing was we were all at our hideout, right? The whole runner team was gathered together at our hideout, and this is in the Tacoma docks, and we have a little kind of chain link fenced off place that has razor wire around it, and there's some shipping containers, and then a building that we've kind of set up to be our group headquarters. And the power goes out, and this dark, heavy thunderstorm rolls in, and our GM is explaining how this like heavy rain just starts, and we raise our garage door to look outside to see if we can figure out why there's no power. And as the lightning flashes, more and more of these silhouettes of people just start appearing in front of our gate. It's like every lightning flash, there's 5 more people. There's 10 more people. There's 15 more people. Just this growing mob outside of our gate. And we just are looking at them, and our mage peeks into the astral and comes back and screams, "Get out of there!" And we all break and run for it. And we find out as we're all trying to escape and get away, it's like a mad scramble that I felt like our GM really hit home really well. Is each one of those people had a Sheedom spirit in them. So we were
Not a good time.
We were running from zombie people.
Yeah.
Oh man, it was so creepy, and you really felt it the way that our GM put the atmosphere together, and everything was fantastic. It's stuck in my head even this many years later. The fun one that we had in that very same campaign is our mage circumvented an entire open killing field with the use of plywood and the levitate spell.
Oh, that works.
It was
That'll do it.
hilarious. Yeah, hey, it's something that our GM didn't consider and was kind of dumbfounded, like, huh, well, okay, I guess that's what happens.
I do have a question for you in regards to Sinless, and I don't know if you'll have one immediately or not, but
Okay.
but what I've been interested in is what has been your favorite thing that has happened that you didn't anticipate as a reaction to something that you had set up, like some scenario that you had put us in, and then our reaction or response to get out of that scenario that you just did not expect to be the case. Do you haven't do you have one off the top of your head that you can pull on? Or
honestly, with each introduction of one of Zero's like backstory villains, how you guys react to that whole situation has always been really interesting to me, because it both causes some internal drama with the group, but it also causes you to come together too. Especially at this point, after you've already dealt with a few of his backstory individuals.
Yeah,
I have enjoyed that. I have enjoyed that a lot. The mages or the magic users in the group coming together to form their initiate group and go on their first astral quest, that was also very entertaining.
Oh, okay, last thing. I also love whenever Spider and Bear show how much they love each other. It's very cute. It's very subtle. It's very cute. Anyway, okay.
Aww.
I ship them. Whatever. Okay. All right. Oh, speaking of RP, if you could play someone else's character, who would it be?
Oh, geez.
I have one off the top. Actually,
Okay.
I technically have two, but they're not for the reasons you might think.
All right,
I'd say
who
the
would you
number
play?
one character that I would dread to play. Let me start with
Uh-huh.
that. I would dread to play either Loki or Kaze, mainly because you guys are very quick-witted and very sociable and can talk and talk, and
Mhm.
I cannot, and my brain goes slow. So also that, and like Kaze's undefeatable spirit is so powerful that I could not hope to even emulate that. Um,
Aw.
I would say that like I would probably want to try being a magic user.
Mhm.
And there's something about Otto's whole experience that is very interesting to me, and I don't know where it's going.
Mhm.
I would actually off the top just pick Otto.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to play as a magic user, you want to play as a magic user that's useful and does stuff. So that is the logical
Oh my
choice.
god! Wow.
That
Oh,
is the
man.
logical choice to pick of the two available there. So I don't blame you on that one.
Oh
Oh,
jeez.
oh,
Every time,
oh.
every time I'm given the
Every
reins to go for it, I'm
time.
gonna go for it, man. And you know
Every
what?
time.
Every episode, I'm waiting to be proved wrong. I'm waiting to be proved wrong.
Oh,
DSB,
no.
this is the call to action, sir. I'm waiting for you to prove me wrong.
So then would you say if you could play someone else's character, would you play a mage?
You can play it right? No, I'm
yeah,
kidding, I'm kidding. I'm
to
kidding.
show how it should be done. You know, I mean, I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but actually, to be perfectly honest, if I had to pick somebody else's character to try out, I think I would probably go with Flounder.
Okay. Okay.
The reason being is because I think that like this is gonna be totally insider
Mhm.
personal appeal here, but I think that the prospect of being able to play like a giant meat tank melee character
Mhm.
would be very fun. But also, if I was going to do that style of character,
Mhm.
100% my character's like background story would be that he would be a participant in an underground wrestling organization.
Oh, cool.
And so
Cool.
whenever I got into fistfights with people, I would just
Mhm.
incorporate stupid wrestling moves into fighting people because I think that that would be just so much fun.
I can't believe you're
Especially
leaking my backstory, dude. This is,
My real
But-
life backstory, you're
Yeah.
leaking it.
but especially like in a setting like Shadowrun, like being able to be like, all right, the dudes pull out like there's two guys and they both pull out a pistol on you, what do you do? And I'm just like, all right, so I'm gonna charge forward and do a double clothesline to start on both of them and knock him out, and then like, you know, pick up one and Batista bomb him onto the other guy. Like just doing stupid stuff like that I think would be very, very fun.
and
And
then
I
incorporate my magic ability and Zangief Atomic Buster the Third.
oh,
Yeah,
stop.
exactly.
I'm not even kidding that this is a character I was thinking of for the next campaign, and I feel like attacked.
I'm gonna spend all of my action pool to do a double German suplex into a 360 out power bomb, please.
Into
Thank
a
you.
or like a
Amazing.
backbreaker kind of thing. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I was gonna say
I'm
they
gonna
pull
do a
out
backbreaker, then throw him up in the air, then catch him, and then slam him down onto the ground.
Oh my God.
Fantastic.
Or like,
Fantastic.
what do you do? I do a missile dropkick. What else do you do? I do another missile dropkick.
But also, I do think that Flounder is just a really cool character, and I like the concept of like the big heavy, and I think that that would be a very fun type of archetype and character type to get to play in this setting.
Nice.
Hell
Okay.
yeah. Awesome. Shifting over to NPCs, do we have a favorite NPC? Oh, I do. Yeah, I absolutely do.
Oh, okay. Who's your favorite NPC?
I would say
I'm
my
really
runner-up-
interested to hear this.
My runner-up would be Applejacks, just because he's so put out and he's so talented at the same time. And just his interactions with Kaze, it's just a perfect inverse mirror. The one, and you're gonna have to remind me of the name, but
Okay.
Archer Steele's agent.
Oh, Caleb Masters.
Caleb Masters was like it was an experience watching you RP that character, and I just loved you were just on it, dude. Like you didn't take a beat, you reacted to everything that your scene partner was saying in such a way that I was like, that's definitely what that character would say. And I remember in the chat, I was like, I love this character. So yeah, Caleb Masters is absolutely my favorite NPC.
I mean, I feel like you probably know who mine is. It's Applejacks. It's definitely Applejacks.
Oh yeah,
Your best
definitely.
friend Applejacks.
My best friend Applejacks. It's so much fun. It allows me to tap into this ridiculous stream of consciousness as a character, like whenever I get to do interactions with him. And it's
Mhm.
also one of those things where like I want to try to keep it like I want to try to keep it in that setting all the time though. So it's like whenever we need to deal with Applejacks, I don't want it to have to be where it's like Kaze is immediately the guy that's got to go deal with him. Like, you
Mhm.
gotta just pepper it on top. You gotta it's a little extra. You
It's
don't
the
want it
fine
all
little
the time
extra.
because it becomes
Yeah.
too much. But if you just
Uh-huh.
every now and again, we got to pop back in and check back in on them.
Oh my
no,
my
that's
favorite is
fair.
when we like say we're sending someone else over and then you show up.
Yeah. Those are the times when I like to do it because again, we get that nice subversion as well, where
exactly.
it's like boom, then we
Fantastic.
drop it in. A close runner up for me, is also the Doctor. I love the Doctor.
Oh, dude, that's what I was thinking.
Oh,
This
the
third.
Doctor.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm a big fan of the Doctor. I like the concept of this Doctor that we just kind of stole and is just like, yeah, whatever. I just work here now, I guess. Like his apathy towards being a part of a Shadowrunning gang is I think his most endearing quality, you know? Like he really doesn't care and he seems like he's more bothered by the fact that he's our Doctor than
Mhm.
if he wasn't, but he sticks around, you know?
Mhm. Mhm.
So I'm a big fan of the Doctor. I think the Doctor is definitely my second favorite.
Nice. So I actually have a few favorite NPCs. I love Kyle. Kyle was a fantastic NPC.
Oh, Kyle.
Right? That you got to meet early on. I mean, he is a throwback to one of our previous games that we had played before we started doing recordings. So he's kind of like a legacy NPC character, but I enjoy him. I think he's hilarious.
Now, just so I'm not confusing him, we're not saying Kevin, are we?
Yes, that's what I mean, Kevin.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. I was gonna say Kevin
Wow.
is actually
Yes,
my
Kevin's
0.
bad day.
Like
Kevin's bad day.
Kevin, to this day, I still think
Jeez.
about what's up with that guy.
Can't even remember my own NPC names.
Dude,
I'm
I was
amazing.
like, Kyle sounds like someone
Yeah.
we killed early on, but Kevin
No,
is the
well,
guy that
I'm trying to remember so many different ones. Is the problem.
his many reincarnations.
I really
Yes.
enjoyed Kyle as like the character who is like, what if the layman had to deal with Shadowrunners in the
Oh, yeah,
Shadowrun
yeah.
universe?
Yes.
I think that's just a really funny perspective.
I also enjoyed Caleb Masters. I thought he was a
Hell
lot
yeah.
of fun.
Oh yeah.
Who is somebody else that I have really, really liked that you guys have interacted with? There's been so many NPCs that I've had to create.
Applejacks has got to be on there.
He was fun. Applejacks is fun. I mean, especially having to do a Decker character. He has been a delight for a reoccurring character. I'm interested to do more with Dr. Death. You definitely haven't seen the last of Dr. Death.
Oh no, that's an ominous sentence.
I want some ominous mentions here. One of my favorite NPCs that I've created that was sort of like a Johnson that you could go to. You haven't met him yet. I don't know if you'll ever meet him with like the Sinless characters, but he's one of my favorite creations. I call him Big Red.
Okay.
He wears a very stylish, up-to-date fashion 3-piece red suit.
Huh. Subtle.
He also wears a large, like, demon kabuki mask that has this flowing white hair that comes off the back of it.
Okay.
And that's how he meets his Shadowrunners. He never shows you his face. He always introduces himself as Big Red.
He's not a runner himself?
No, he's not a runner. He is a Johnson that I use.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can dive into his backstory if you want. I created an entire thing for him. It's pretty interesting, especially when you learn what he actually is.
Okay. Spooky.
Yes,
Okay.
he is kind of spooky.
I am all for spookiness. So if you decide to crank that dial a little bit higher for next season, hey, I ain't gonna complain.
Well, if we run into more magic stuff, that's where you get a lot of more of the spookiness.
Fair.
Unless you want cyber zombies.
No one wants cyber zombies.
I do have to say, I'm a little surprised that we don't have any mention for Sam Hickory. The dual audio and exasperated sigh, I think, is everything that anybody needs to know.
He is a special kind of NPC.
When you first introduced him, I was like, this is my favorite NPC. And then very quickly, he
became a nightmare. Yeah.
He became like the BBEG of the entire campaign.
Sam Hickory, the secret big bad evil guy.
I even like in character was like, yeah, he's a great lawyer. I heard so much about him. And then I just see these scenes with him where he's just a slime ball.
Oh, he is the absolute worst.
You're the worst, Sam Hickory.
He really is.
I'm very excited to get to my next part for being able to go over those legal documents I had him draw up for me. I'm very excited.
I bet you're very.
It's gonna be an entire
excited.
episode of you guys having a debate on like bargaining stuff, and it's gonna be amazing, like a mental duel.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. All right. Cool. I want to run away from Sam Hickory and this topic. Speaking of running away, I'm the master of segues. What is our favorite run we've had? I have an immediate answer.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be that much surprise if you've watched the recent goings on, but that same oil derrick episode had some surprises and then even more surprises, and it was something we did not expect at all.
So the oil rig run, definitely by far.
Yes, oil rig. Yes.
Nice,
I mean, that's off the top.
No, that's a good one. It was intense.
I would also say, and again, this kind of leans into what we like about it a lot, which is the RP. The whole Kevin storyline, that whole thing, and then how it ended up. I'm still I'm gonna press you for this at some point, unless it happens, which is why I haven't asked.
Okay.
But I want to know what the hell is happening with Kevin. I want to know. I need to know before I die.
We'll have to see.
Yeah.
You'll just have to wait and see. Yeah.
I think off the top of my head as well, honestly, Underwater Lab is really up there. It's really up there because at every turn, something new was happening where I was like, oh, okay, so this is what's happening. And then I was right, and then it was also worse than I could have ever anticipated it actually being. I'm pretty sure that during the whole ending sequence of trying to get Spider out of the security room, I was so stressed the entire time.
Oh, dude. Yes.
Yeah. Because I was like, I really don't want to have to go in here and kill everybody right now. I really just want to settle this peacefully. But goddamn it, just let her out of this room, please. Like, I was so stressed out the entire time. And also, how many times do you get to play a character where you get launched off of a tactical shield to do like a cyclone slash with a katana? That was pretty cool.
Not very often.
That was pretty enjoyable. I liked doing that one. That was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Oil rig was definitely one of my favorite runs to take you guys on. I also enjoyed the taking on the Halloweeners on their own turf. With the whole building catching on fire.
That one just got very scary for me because I thought that we were ready. We had like a really good plan, and then everything just went wrong all at the same time. Like everything went sideways. All of it went bad. So I think that's probably the most stressed I've been in any run that we've done was the Halloweener hideout. That one was
both of those are probably my favorite runs so far.
Quite memorable, and many more to come.
Sure. I hope so.
All right. If you were a suit, which corps would you work for? Which is the one? Which is the one that works with Loftweir?
Saderkrupp.
Saderkrupp all day, baby. or Atslan. No, wait. That's my second, but very, very particular reason, and it's just the blood magic stuff sounded cool.
It's the blood jaguars. It's always
jaguars.
It
fanboy
always
for
comes
Blood
back
Jaguars.
to the Blood Jaguars.
You are correct, sir. I have a
Turn
type,
me
and
into a vampire commando,
Yes.
please.
Yes. 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 Seder crap all day, every day, baby. Be on the winning side.
I think if I had to pick, I would probably. It'd probably be Renraku. I really like Renraku. I think Renraku's really cool. They've just got such an interesting amount of like things
The
that they're
lore.
attached to and lore and like how they come back in to the arcology discussion and stuff as well.
Totally supporting imperialistic Japan.
Well, that aside, that's not great.
That's my
but
favorite part.
Yeah,
Dying
the
the guy from the
downside.
cost.
not the listen. All of the mega corporations are bad, as we've previously discussed.
No one is a good guy.
There's no good guys in the mega corps, but in terms of like things that they cover and like what I would want to do as a suit there, that's up there. Ares would be a close second. Just because I like this. I like the aspect of space in the Shadowrun universe because I feel like it's still kind of a open field. Like we have the stuff with the moon colony and the satellite colonies and like a little bit going on with Mars, but all things considered, it kind of feels like space is still a blank space area that you could do a lot with, and I think that that would be cool.
That's true.
That's
true.
I thought you were gonna say the reason if I was gonna join Ares, it's because I would want to play a gun-toting crazy cowboy, just like Yeehaw Jones, but elevated to actually just be a gun nut.
I would just be Doug Dimmadome.
Doug Dimmadome. Oh God.
I feel like that's more of the Lone Star aspect.
Oh.
Right there.
Yeah, well, that's specific for the cowboy stuff, but I'm thinking about just like the Walmart of guns, right?
Oh yeah, that's
like
your Ares for the Walmart of guns.
Yes. Hell yeah, brother.
Yeah.
I would go with Yamatetsu. That becomes Evo because they're one of the more diverse corporations. I mean, how awesome is it to have a free spirit that sits on your board of directors?
It's very true. Evo is actually really good. Like I think of all of the megacorps, Evo is probably like the least evil of the megacorp, at least outwardly, you know.
My next pick for Mega Corporation is definitely the Draco Foundation.
Oh shit! I didn't even think about the Draco Foundation.
I did not think about them as a corp.
Oh,
yeah,
I didn't either, but they definitely are. Yeah, no, they definitely are.
Yeah, then you get to hand out Dunkles on Will stuff.
Damn. Yeah.
So that's your
fuck everything that
changed.
I just said. Draco Foundation. Fuck all of my previous answers. Thank you for coming.
There we go.
Yeah, exactly.
That was an easy pick.
Yeah, I was like, oh, which is the one that has to do with Dunkles on? And then I was just like, oh, that's not a megacorp.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
Yep. The
Easy
more
clap.
you know. Easy clap. All right. What is okay? And I guess easy. You're able to answer this however you want to, but it feels like something more for Austin and I.
Okay.
One thing you would change about your character, if any.
Oh yeah, this is definitely more for you guys.
Oof.
I'm very self-critical, so I have a couple.
Okay, you go first, Tyler, and then I'll go.
Let me start my own laundry list of stuff I change about me. I wish that I, as a player, would be more willing to have more vulnerable moments as a character. I have them very infrequently in this character, and it's also a problem I have with me as a person. Coping with RPGs, baby. Like anytime my character's on the verge of having a really serious conversation, like he cracks a joke. And that's something that like I do as a person. So I'm like, oh God, I can't change that about the character. I mean, I could try to, but
I think that makes your character more interesting that way, that you bring that forward. And also I have to say that if you ever want to work on like a social aspect, you know, playing tabletop RPGs is the way to do it.
Very true. Very true. I've learned a lot of improv skills off of tabletop and
It will definitely get you out of your comfort zone, or if you have the right GM, they can do it the right way. You know, because you don't just want to force somebody. You kind of have to coax them a little bit and give them time in the limelight, help them along, and everything like that. And I used to actually be a lot more reserved and quiet. And
Really?
yeah, look at what tabletop RPGs have done
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah, and I would say, like, mechanically speaking, I was originally going to play a melee character.
Mhm.
I was originally going to play like a brawny character, and I kind of would like to do that at some point. We'll see.
Mhm.
And on top of that, like let me see, how do I say this? I wish I had thought about the gadget thing early, so I could have been investing and working towards it earlier. But
Mhm.
like as it stands right now, there's a lot going on, so it's
I
kind of
mean,
like
that's to be expected with your first PC, though.
that's fair.
And this is your first time playing in the setting, so yeah,
True.
there's probably a lot of things that now that you know about them seem more interesting, or that you would want to bring in on the backstory of your character or something like that. So
Absolutely. Yeah. After this campaign and after our wonderful podcast, I really see a lot more of the world, and I'd be willing to
Mhm.
make bigger, wilder decisions.
Well, there's always season 2.
What do you know? Austin, you have anything in mind?
So to go on a completely separate sentiment here, to be 100% honest, I have gotten to do way more with this character than I ever thought I was going to. I've
Mhm.
gotten to do a lot more with this character that set up a lot for the backstory of my character, which uh will be coming soon. To
Mhm.
get more into that within the Sinless setting. But like I kind of don't really have anything that I want to change about him, to be perfectly honest. Like
No, that's fair.
Kaze has evolved more than I ever anticipated he could have been. I remember when me and you first did our session for character creation,
Mhm.
the one thing that I told you was I want to play a street samurai, I want a katana, and I want to wear all black with a trench coat. And
Uh-huh.
that was my outline for my character. And that was it. That was what I brought to the table. And I want to play the stupid edgy katana boy in Shadowrun that I have heard so much about. And like the fact that I've now evolved him into being like a seamstress leader of a biker gang that is like trying to become a legitimate business operator, like none of this was anything that I had ever initially planned for my character. This is all kind of stuff that's just on the fly been able to come about and evolve with us playing through the campaign.
Mhm.
And so I've already gotten to do way more with this than I ever anticipated. So with where Kaze is now, I really don't have anything that I would want to change about him. I've really
Okay.
enjoyed it. And I feel that way about pretty much everybody that's in our group as well. I mean,
Mhm.
I think that maybe the one thing that as an overall that we maybe could do more of is having more one-on-one scenes to be able to
Mhm.
build up the character relationships just a bit more.
Mhm.
But outside of that, I feel like everybody has such a unique and defined character that plays into their own play style and comforts of role playing. And I think it all just kind of meshes and blends well. And I feel like it really kind of lets you see a lot of of who, the players are behind their characters a lot of the time.
Mhm.
And I personally, Tyler, I like that you have Zero as kind of like a reserved, quiet character because his backstory fits for it, man. Like he's terrifying. I think of everybody I think that legitimately of
Wow.
everybody that's in our group, he is probably the scariest character. So
Wow.
the
Wow.
because if you think about his backstory and where he's come from, like of all of us, he's done the most, but he's also been like within his own narrative the villain. So the fact that he now gets to change that and see himself as trying to be the hero, like that's going to be an uncomfortable transition for him. So his uneasiness comes through in that in the way that you play him as well, intentionally or not. And I think that is to the benefit of his character.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks, man. Also, I hope we do like a post-mortem at some point because I don't know how much of the stuff I'm going to cover from the backstory. But there's like a few like little things that I'd like to be talking about for that. I will say the one thing I change about Kaze is that I wish he had normal eyes, so the fan art could be him being super sexy. He needs to flirt more. He needs to use that charisma and charm the cyberware alpha people. All right. I was thinking about that the entire time.
Are you trying to say robot eyes aren't sexy, Tyler? Because
I have one of them, but I'm just thinking like your character is this like this pillar of charisma, but then the eyes part for me, dude. I'm a big sucker of beautiful eyes, and you know they're beautiful in their own way.
That's why he always wears glasses, man. That's why he always wears glasses.
All right. So, with that being said, I guess we can kind of group that into what do you like most about your PC, Austin?
I within a role-playing setting, I always like to try to play the character that tries to bring the group together, you know, that tries to be the optimistic force. And I feel like doing that in light of the settings of Shadowrun has made it all the more enjoyable for me to play the character this way. Because normally, whenever everything that I've seen before that has been Shadowrun related content, it is usually that everybody is always super angry or super depressed and super grimdark and super serious. And I like the idea of like, but what if there's this one like eternally optimistic dude that's part of the Shadowrun group that's just like, don't worry, guys, we'll get the mission done. Cause like I feel like I never see that represented, and it feels like it's just such a fun contrast to get to play to a lot of the more serious moments that we have in the story and everything.
I would say too that like the interactions you have with people while being an eternal optimist, they serve as a good reminder that you don't have to have a super tragic character all the time. Helps to lighten the mood, and also just like it naturally channels your leadership capabilities into this character. That helps reshape how I think about PCs, to be honest. Was there anything else you liked most?
The fact that I get to be a tailor, that's also just fun. I just think that's
dope.
fun. I like being able to like disarm so easy from time to time by bringing in talks about fabric and seam lines and hemming, and knowing that I'm just going to start throwing all of these terms at him because I just want to see how he reacts as the character I'm talking to. And I find that very entertaining.
I absolutely love that.
I've
loved that when you say these like out off the wall Taylor terms, and I'm like, oh god, I don't even know what the hell he's saying, but he says it with such confidence, you know. Yeah, I would say favorite thing I like about my character is that my GM was so agreeable with my backstory and the crazy ideas I've thrown at him. So I would say the thing I like most about my player character is my opportunities I've been given to role play and have such a memorable experience.
I'm not getting misty-eyed over here.
I guess my favorite part of my PC is so easy mode.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Okay, we need to turn to more soulless machinery here with our next question.
Now let's turn against easy mode with the next couple of questions.
Yes. We got to balance it, you know.
Yep.
Why so easy mode poo poo?
Oh,
great question.
That's that.
Okay.
Come on.
All right. If cyberware and augmentations were real, would you have them? If so, how much?
Yes and no. Man, I think some of the cyberware would be super cool to have. Like I would get a data jack. I would maybe think about cyber eyes. because then I don't have to wear glasses or contacts anymore. And the data jack is going to get me the access to the Matrix and all the fun goodies that entails. But at the same time, Austin, specifically what we were talking about last episode with the drawbacks of having some of these things is just nightmare fuel.
Especially a data jack.
And it's so common. It's so common. So that's what makes it even more like
the nightmare for me is that I realized that in the setting for the Sixth World, if I had a data jack, I would just never go to Japan. Because the possibility is too high.
Yeah.
It's just it's not worth the risk.
High.
It's not worth the risk.
Yeah.
I think of all of the augmentation stuff, the thing that I would probably be most interested in would be the limbs, and like specifically like as an alternative to like if you've got bad knees, you know, or like if you've got like the achy joints, like being able to just be like, but what if I had robot legs and then I never had to deal with it again? Like, I think that's the most appealing aspect to me. I don't know if this is just because I'm getting older and I'm starting to have to think about these things genuinely. But when I was like, man, imagine if I could just, you know, stand up off my couch and not have to make dad noises every time I got up.
Oh my God, dude. Not even kidding. That was 100% my motivator for my wanting cyber limbs, cyber legs. So I didn't have all the aches and pains.
I'm saying, man.
I mean, on top of that, practically speaking, cyber legs, you could go, in theory, you could go get places faster.
Yeah,
right? Is that how that works?
Well,
you make a lot of sense, right?
You know, technically, if you wanted to go that route, you could get they're like kid stealth legs. They're the ones that are the cyber legs where the knees bend backwards. So it's like you walk like a chicken or something.
And we have those in the real world, as it were.
Yeah. So technically, yes, you could move faster. So
I would just stand like a chicken.
Could I just get Tink Tread legs? Is that a possibility?
So one of the other pieces of cyberware that we probably haven't addressed, it hasn't really come up. You can technically get deployable rollerblades.
Oh, I could just have wheelies all the time?
Oh,
yes, you could have wheelies in your literal feet.
Oh, you should have brought this up during my character creation. So
I was very afraid to do so.
I'm so sad now.
Especially when you were like, I wanted to be the edgelord in the trench coat with the katana. I was like, stay away from the wheels.
Think about how many times I could have been like, all right, I want to run at the guy aiming his gun at me and then deploy my wheelies and slide past with my katana while I cut him in half. Like, oh, it could have been like, so good.
Whenever he's walking away from an interaction, he just wheelie moonwalks out of the scene. It fits his character so well.
One of the other things too, there's a piece of cyberware that can give you a prehensile tail.
Dope.
Yeah,
why not?
There's some weird stuff out there that we haven't even touched on.
Not that it's weird.
You can technically scoop out part of your brain and put a processing computer in there.
I don't like that idea at all. The other one I would say is I would like cyber ears, just because my hearing is my favorite like sense. And if I couldn't hear things as well, or if I could like change it to maybe, you know, I'm gonna listen to this song that's on the radio like bass boosted just by picking up more, you know, like it comes with its drawbacks. But at the end of the day,
since they did say cyberware and augmentations, right?
Yes.
There's some BioWare that I would pick up. Well, with BioWare, you could get, you know, actual muscle replacement. You could get increased quickness that's more natural instead of having wires in your body. You can get tailored pheromones so that people want to be around you and talk to you.
That
because
is
you just
terrifying.
You just have this air about you and people want to be around you.
I was thinking about this, but I didn't think it was possible. But now that you're mentioning it, I'd like cyber lungs. My lungs kind of suck.
There are cyber lungs.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Just like
you can even get them. Normally. You can even get them to where you could actually breathe underwater.
Holy moly, me oh my!
Technically, you could get cyber gills.
What are you trying to do, dude? You're trying to encourage me to make Aquaman?
If you want to, go for it.
Why would you make Aquaman when you could be Black Manta?
Oh,
I know what I said. I know what I
Okay,
said.
that's all right. Fair enough. I mean, Black Manta is literally just an augmented dude that lives underwater and fights Aquaman. Like,
I mean,
Yeah, but look at that
you're not
helmet.
wrong. You're
he's
not
pretty
wrong.
much a Shadowrun character.
Oh, look at that helmet.
Yeah, it's cool.
Look at it.
What about it?
You know, that's another conversation for another day.
Uh,
All right. Okay, cool. Next up, and this actually would be best, I think, for you to start easy so we could get a refresher.
Sure.
Favorite archetype?
I gotta go with the physical adept. Having innate mystic powers is so cool. So cool. Being able to do crouching tiger, hidden dragon stuff. Come on. Who doesn't want to wire foo in real life?
Oh, dude. I can't believe you took my answer like that, dude.
Hey, I'm just saying. It could be your favorite archetype too.
and it is. Yeah. I mean, I have this thing with RPGs where in a world where there's guns or a world where there's magic, there's just a guy that punches things really well.
Mhm.
And that's something that I feel like would, I mean, I know it's augmented so much.
I mean, if you really wanted to, you could technically make a physical adept that's very good at gun foo.
Oh. Huh.
Like he's
Good old
very
gun
accurate.
kata.
Yeah, he's very accurate at shooting, but then also using them as like club weapons and things like that.
Hood, here I come.
I'm just throwing it out there. It's possible. You can do it. The tools are there.
Inside you the whole time.
I think that for mine, I would probably, maybe unsurprisingly, I would go with Street Sam.
Mhm.
But the reason is because I think that Street Sam is one of the most like open to interpretation classes I've ever seen in like any tabletop. Cause like of the people that are in our party, so easy, you could probably tell me this because I'm not certain 100%. But
Mhm.
how many of us are just actually like Street Sam shells put into the characters that we're playing?
I know at least me and
three of you.
Bear.
Yeah, you and Bear are both technically Street Sams, just
But
with
if you
different cyberware.
And if you look at my character, Bear's character, and Tyler's character, all of our characters are completely different characters. They all do completely different things. They're all outfitted and set up to do completely different types of things. So I just think that like that freedom of an archetype is really, really cool. Especially
sounds dope.
And Spider's character too.
Yeah, and Spider. So like and then it's like no other RPG has that type of class that's that open, you know? Like if you play a warrior in D&D and you have 4 warriors, they're all warriors. Like they're all doing the same thing. They're all going to be like maybe you take a different prestige class, but you're all going to be doing slightly different variations to the same overall actions. Whereas you have me, Bear, Spider, and Tyler, and all 4 of our characters are completely different in the way that we play, the way that we spec, the things that we've tailored ourselves to handle. And I just think that that's really, really, really cool, especially as like the marquee class of Shadowrun.
I mean, and again, I feel like that all comes back to the Shadowrun setting in general, in that you can have a base archetype, right? But the way that you play it and the augmentations or skills that you choose to take can make you completely different from somebody else that's playing the same archetype.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right. We're coming down to the last 3. What frustrates you about the game more than anything else?
The Matrix rules.
Yeah, I was gonna say
That's it, man. That's it.
The fact that we're 45 episodes in and I still don't actually understand how the Matrix works, like, yeah, that's probably mine as well. I think that's my answer as well. And at this point, I'm afraid to ask. Like, because it seems like I'm in the same boat as everybody else. Like, I feel like none of us know how the Matrix works.
That's fair.
Yeah, I would say like, and this comes from when I made my character, I didn't realize how important it was for the like connections thing. So the fact that you can buy different tiers of friendship with people, because I made certain NPCs my connections, not realizing that I didn't invest enough into them. So one of them just like hates me, he just happens to know me, and I owed him money. So that was like not super transparent at first. I mean, like you probably explained it well enough, but I was like, why would I spend money on friends? I can make them. It's like, oh no.
Within that same vein, how many times have we just gone to Sam? Like, how many times has the resolution to one of our problems just been, well, I guess I'll call Sam and then we're good to go? Like,
Yeah,
it's kind of nuts, like how integral
most
the
reliable.
connections actually are
Yeah, man.
for storytelling stuff.
A lot of things that you can run into in Shadowrun isn't exactly what you can do, but who you know.
That is fair.
Something to think about for future characters that you build.
Yeah. Do you have something that frustrates you easy with our like rule setting?
I mean, other than the Matrix, not really. Everything else is I've experienced it enough at this point that I feel comfortable with it. The Matrix is really the only thing that I've never really done a whole lot with. So it's always just been kind of frustrating to me.
Any runs you'd like to do in the future? Oh boy.
This is definitely for you two.
I don't know if so I have two. My first one is probably not with the current group of characters that we have now,
Mhm.
but I think that it would be fun to do a run where the entire campaign is just to run the arcology.
Ugh.
I knew it.
I think that would be cool.
I
But I feel like if we were going to do it, we would have to like specifically make characters
Yep.
to do that run. And I think that could just be cool to see because it's such a presence in the Shadowrun lore that
Well,
I
it's a
think
giant imposing building, so yeah.
well, but there's that, but just like also like the entire seal off, the fallout of the arcology, the way that it changes the matrix and the
Yep.
entire like intranet system
Oh yeah.
within the sixth world. Like there are so many important things attached to the arcology that I think that would just be a really, really fun run to do. I think that would be cool. Within the confines of our party that we have, I think it would be fun to do something off of the will. I think it'd be fun to run one of the things off of Uncle will.
Oh yeah.
Maybe not one of the ridiculous ones, of course, but like picking like maybe like a smaller tier request off of the will to try to go for. I think that could be really cool.
I feel
Okay.
like we could have a really benign thing from the list. And as we know with Sinless, milk runs are never milk runs. We pick up something thinking it's super simple, and then it turns out to be something nightmarish.
Exactly.
Ones I'd like to do. I would like to try the pink mohawk. Is that what it's called? That style, like just smash and grab kind of stuff. Like I understand that it could be kind of like one note. At the same time, I love just playing me some reckless characters. That's where I'm at.
The pink mohawk style of gaming is more like flashy and kind of off the wall crazy stuff. I try to give you the opportunity to do that. Like I try to get a good blend of pink mohawk moments and dark trench coat. It's just two different schools of thought for the same like Shadowrun genre. Like your pink mohawk is ostentatious and out there and crazy stuff, and then black trench coat is very grounded. It's more realism, more gritty.
Pink mohawk is me launching myself off of an orc riot shield in a swinging katana swing into an enemy. That's pink mohawk.
That's pretty fair, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Let me see.
I do think that if you made a character who was a physical adept who moonlighted as a underground street wrestler and then incorporated wrestling moves into the way that you fight enemies, That's pretty fucking pink mohawk, dude.
That's very true. And
that would be pretty pink mohawk.
That is an ideal character that at this point now, if I made it, it feels like I'm cribbing the idea, but like it was in my heart the whole time. Let's be around here.
You know what else would make that character even better? Is if you take like a flaw, like some kind of flaw, I'll have to look through the list, but you take a flaw that just makes him think that every fight he gets into is like a wrestling match that's been set up. So he tries to promo before it and everything.
Okay.
He pulls out his own like microphone that he carries with him that's not connected to anything. He just starts monologuing.
Yes. And then depending on how good the promo was, that's like he either takes a buff or negative mentally. Like he's either confident or like, I messed up the line here. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I feel like we need to cut this now because I want to do a character like this. Anyway, the other run I would like to do is actually, I would love to do an adventure that's like different characters, but like set in a haunted house or something, or set in like something that's more old, you know, modern characters.
So remember, we could two birds, one stone that one with there's the stipulation in Dunkelzahn's will that if you stay in that haunted castle,
stay in the haunted castle.
Yes,
that's right.
Okay, yes.
So there you go. There's two ideas in one right there.
Yeah,
I was gonna say the arcology seems like it's probably like a pretty good House of Horrors as well, but
that's a different type of House of Horror.
But I like the haunted castle idea a lot more.
The arcology is a whole.
The arcology has just also been a running joke with our group that we want to do it, and then you guys keep saying you don't want to do it, which makes Austin and I go, we want to do it.
Hey, I'm all for doing it, but that's just me.
I'm down to do it, but like I said, I think that would be something where we would have to make completely new characters and run it like as a completely side.
I imagine it'd be like a Rogue One scenario.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it very well could be.
It absolutely would be in my mind. Yeah, but there's a lot of possibilities. That's part of what's so great about the setting.
Yes.
All right, and finally, any other character ideas you'd play if your current character died?
Oh, I know Austin has a couple after our last conversation.
I mean, should I go?
If you want to, it's totally up to you. I mean, obviously, Tyler's choice is this wrestler idea that we've been working on this whole episode.
In the top one for sure.
By far.
Oh man.
So the two that me and So Easy had come up with the last time. The first one was making a Street Sam style character who is a drug dealer who uses drugs as his form of combat. So like getting like a dart gun to like inject people with like like narcojet and like rage and shit like that from a distance to be able to like influence the fight and stuff. I thought that would be a fun character to play. And then the second character that we came up with that's actually like way more fun is basically like a Jason Bourne style character where he's like a normal dude, like a corporate drone, but then his best friend is actually like a Shadowrun handler who, when he has to run a job, he inserts a beetle into his data jack, into the guy's data jack that like turns him into like a super soldier dude.
Oh god.
But he only gets that when it's inserted, and he never has any memory of that being the case, so he's like literally like a sleeper agent runner.
It's like a Jekyll and Hyde thing, so he doesn't know like atrocities he commits. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So those were the two that we came up with during the drug episode that I was like, both of these seem like they could be fun.
Yeah. There are actually like a couple that I've thought of, but right off the top, two ones I'd like to try, maybe, or, you know, like ideas. One of them is like, not like Iron Man in the sense that he's covered in a metallic suit, but like the idea that he just has like, it's like Bloodsport, I guess. Like he's got just weapons that he can just pull out of, you know, anything in his body, or he has like a rocket in his arm, you know, stuff like that. Just like a living weapon kind of thing. To go like super over the top with it. The other one I was thinking of just now is like, I don't know what class this would be, but it would be a magic user that styles all of their magic around music. So it's like a bass boost kind of like shockwave kind of thing, or like sharp note. It's like the Multiverse of Madness fight, except set in modern.
You could probably do that with a mage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get it. Is the shaman the one with the spirits?
Shaman is the one with the spirits. Yes.
Thinking like a dancing animal.
Well,
Like
you could do
shaman?
either.
Yeah.
There are spells that you can learn as both a mage and a shaman that are like sonic based.
Could Tyler play a DJ shaman and his shamanic spirit is DJ Khaled?
Oh my god.
Oh, my true spirit animal.
No.
I call upon DJ Khaled. All right. And
oh my god. All he does when you summon him is DJ Khaled.
It says
You try to have conversations with him, and that's all he says to you. You have no idea what it means.
No. Even better. No one knows what he's saying, but I'm like, yeah, that's profound. It's like great. Where I'm just like, yeah, I don't know about that. DJ Khaled.
You cast a spell, and then in the back of your head, you just hear another one, and then you cast another spell, another one. The drain just keeps compiling, but I'm compelled by my shamanic spirit to keep casting.
I guess it's not it's not conducive to a group play scenario, but like having a character who has this NPC that's in their head, or like a spirit that they always are talking to. I love that kind of idea, that dynamic.
I mean, Karma kind of has that going on.
That's
right
what I'm
now.
saying. Yeah.
Well,
like something like that.
Well, he did.
Well, he did.
And then he did a thing.
Spoilers.
Spoilers. You have to watch the episode.
I gotta catch up on the own show I'm on.
Yeah. You gotta meet Dr. Death.
All right. With that being said, any closing thoughts, comments?
I will say great questions, guys. I super appreciate them. I hope that we definitely gave you the in-depth answers that you were hoping to get.
Yeah. And then some, I'd say. Yeah. Anything, Austin?
No, it's just that I enjoyed the blend of questions on this. I liked that it was kind of half specific to the Sinless stuff, but then also just like half open. I know that on a lot of the more character specific stuff, we didn't have stuff for So Easy to answer, obviously, since he's the guy that's running the show, but I
get to be all the characters.
Yeah, exactly. He's everybody else, so harder to answer that one. But I do think that it also kind of helps us to vocalize a lot of stuff that maybe then gets us thinking about other possibilities to bring up and work into further storylines and angles going forward. So
yeah, going forward with the Q&A stuff, do we want all the questions to be centered around Shadowrun?
Yeah, I think we should keep it in the Shadowrun universe.
Yeah, no, that's super fair.
Yeah, because that's what we're going on about here. I mean, that's what the lore podcast is all about, and the Sinless show, obviously. So right now, let's keep it Shadowrun centric, you guys, and then maybe in the future we can branch out or something.
If you want more of our personalities, follow us on socials.
Yeah, exactly.
Or join the Discord, because we're talking all the time anyway. So
and do that.
That's true. Yeah,
but like, say I wanted to submit the questions, where might I submit them, Austin?
The place that you would go to submit for further episodes of Wyrm Talk would be to be a member of the fantastic Patreon page for this here podcast that we're doing for y'all, which would be patreon.com/critical_hits.
Yep.
That is Patreon.
That's not. This wasn't a ruse to have us correct ourselves.
Nope. This is where it's always been and how it has always been done. Which
exactly.
You're gonna retroactively edit us so that whenever I said critical hits live, it's critical_hits.
Patreon.com/critical_hits.
That definitely didn't sound robotic enough. I like it. Oh man. Well,
If you did like this episode of Worm Talk, please make sure that you subscribe to the Patreon, because going forward, these will be exclusive to
That's the only way you're
patrons.
gonna hear your answers.
First one's free. How appropriate that we're doing it right after the drug episode.
Yeah,
Hell
exactly.
yeah, we are the drug. And you know,
The first
if
Beatles
you-
free.
there's nothing that makes you more immortal than having your name said in a podcast. So perhaps if we add like patron names to it, we could say some weird names in addition to their questions. You know?
Oh, well, there's some thoughts for the future. Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we just wanted to keep this one relatively open to give you the idea of how Worm Talk is going to play. And in the future Worm Talks, they'll be a little more personalized.
Oh. All right, Easy, take us out.
All right, you guys, thank you once again for hanging out with us. Like I said, these were great questions. I hope we got the answers that you were looking for. If not, hey, you can always fire back more questions and we will get back to you on the next Worm Talk. Good night, everybody.
The Topps Company Inc. has sole ownership of the names, logo, artwork, marks, photographs, sound, audio, video, and or any proprietary materials used in connection with the game Shadowrun. The Topps Company Inc. has granted permission to Critical Hits to use such names, logos, artwork, photographs, sound, audio, video, and or any proprietary materials for promotional and informational purposes on its website, but does not endorse and is not affiliated with Critical Hits in any official capacity whatsoever.